Hey y'all, thanks for stopping in. So here we have Joe Biden's response to the 3 U.S. soldiers who were killed over the weekend in Jordan. It's from the Daily Mail. Joe Biden is weighing up launching strikes on Iranian military assets in the Persian Gulf after 3 Americans were killed in Jordan by the Tehran-backed drone. The president has demanded advisors present him with options on how to respond to the attack without dragging the U.S. into battle with the Middle East. Insiders revealed any revenge bombings will take place in the coming days as the commander-in-chief and military brass study a range of targets. Fears of war were sparked over the weekend when the Iran-backed suicide drone killed 3 American soldiers in a remote base near Jordan's border with Syria. The victims were named on Monday as Specialist Kennedy Layden Sanders, 24, Specialist Breonna Moffett, 23, and Sergeant William Rivers, 46. Iran-backed militias, calling themselves the Axis of Resistance, have also launched more than 160 strikes on U.S. targets since the October 7th terror attack by Hamas. It comes at a delicate time for the White House, with Biden not seen out and about on Monday after sparking health fears due to a bumbling speech in South Carolina. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has only recently returned to the office after going AWOL to have prostate cancer surgery. And all this is while Biden and his administration are trying to sanction Texas and fighting Texas over the security of our southern border, essentially. Biden wants it to be wide open so that he can fester a civil war between people that want to have secure borders and people that want to have open borders, essentially. Not to mention the looming World War III, whatever the definition of World War III is nowadays. I don't know what would actually consist of. But regardless, we value these 3 individual soldiers' lives just like we value every soldier's life. And when we can prevent and avoid war, we absolutely should. My thoughts and prayers go out to these 3 individuals' families. And yeah, that's right. My thoughts and prayers. That's all I can offer. And so that's what I do. I know that offends some people, but it is what it is. On Sunday, the Axis claimed the responsibility for the attack on the outpost in Jordan, saying it was a continuation of our approach to resisting the American forces in Iraq and the region. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Nasser said on Monday the militias do not take orders from Iran and act independently. But I believe that they get funding from Iran. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that their money and their resources don't just, their access to weapons and stuff like that don't just come out of thin air. Tehran is widely known to be the driving force for the attacks on the U.S. targets. Biden's own aides admit the efforts to hit targets in the region in response to the drone and missile attacks to restore deterrence failed. The president, who was not publicly seen on Monday, but was shown in White House photos meeting his advisors, has ordered his team to draw up a list of options for retaliation. Politico reported that they include attacking Iranian personnel in Syria or Iraq or Iranian naval assets in the Persian Gulf. Iran has suggested any strikes within Iran itself would cross a red line. Former CIA Chief of Staff Jeremy Bash said escalation is unavoidable. He said Biden cannot avoid the international challenges even in an election year. He added, "There is a sense that our deterrence measures to date have not been received by Tehran as we hoped, so escalation is unavoidable." Once Biden has made his call, retaliation would likely begin a few days later and come in waves against a range of targets. Campaign officials said that the 81-year-old president, who spent 6 years as head of Senate Foreign Relations Committee and has deep relations with many key players in the Middle East, will impress wavering voters with his calm incompetence. Really? I think they're confusing calm incompetence with sleepy and drowsiness. The Pentagon and State Department have spent decades drawing up scenarios and creating lists of possible targets. Decades, huh? The New York Times reported that the U.S. has identified the major drone-making factories and their overseas suppliers, which are working to help Russia in Ukraine and providing armaments to the Houthis in Yemen and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Oh, of course, and this might be true, I don't know, but seems rather convenient that this one target here will actually help on all 3 war fronts. And, if it is, then by all means, do what you got to do, right? But don't get me wrong, I'm not being a Lindsey Graham here. I believe we should do everything possible to prevent war because we value every single soldier's life, and we don't need to be putting people at risk unnecessarily, especially when we have our own border difficulties going on our border with Mexico. But continuing, the working assumption of American officials, the paper said, is that Sunday's attack was by an Iranian-made drone. The Pentagon has existing plans for potential strikes on Iranian missile sites and air bases in case a conflict broke out between Iran and Israel. Israel has been carrying out high-profile bombing runs, practicing attacks on the Natanz nuclear site and the underground facility at Fordow. The U.S. has even formulated a cyber attack option against Iran, codenamed Nitro Zeus, the New York Times reported. The cyber attack would disable Iran's air bases, communication systems, and crucial parts of its power grid. Which should be a reminder to all of us to consider ourselves, how we get power and how we feed ourselves on the daily if things were to be disrupted as far as our supply chains and whatever. And we have the pending trucker protest there in Texas. Who knows how bad supply chains will be slowed down, or if they will at all, if that ends up going on, and who knows how long that will end up going on for if it does. So, might be the time to consider getting yourself some chickens, learn how to garden, things like that. But continuing, Republicans led by Trump are demanding Biden take decisive action. Trump backed away from attacking Iran in November 2020, shortly after the election. He asked for options on attacking Iran's main nuclear site a day after a UN watchdog reported showing Iran had finished moving a first cascade of advanced centrifuges from an above-ground plant at its main uranium enrichment site to an underground one in a fresh breach of its 2015 nuclear deal with major powers. But Trump ultimately decided against taking the dramatic step, privately worrying about the implications of an all-out war with Iran. And that was great. Trump started no new wars, even created the Abraham Accords, trying to make peace in the Middle East, which is something that my generation would love to see, and others as well, but that was kind of the theme for us growing up. On Sunday, Trump said he would have been tougher against Iran. 3 years ago, Iran was weak, broke, and totally under control, he wrote on Truth Social. Thanks to my maximum pressure policy, the Iranian regime could barely scrape $2 together to fund their terrorist proxies. He said the fault lay with Biden's decision in September to unfreeze $6 billion of Iranian cash held in Qatar in response to Iran releasing 5 U.S. hostages. Trump said Biden is now funding bloodshed and carnage and condemned the decision. So it sounds like Trump knew what he was doing when it came to dealing with Iran. It's too bad people feared mean tweets. In November, the House blocked the unfreezing of the cash, and the decision now goes to the Senate. Then Joe Biden came in and gave Iran billions of dollars, which the regime has used to spread bloodshed and carnage throughout the Middle East, said Trump. This attack would never have happened if I was president, not even a chance, just like the Iranian-backed Hamas attack on Israel would have never happened. The war in Ukraine would never have happened. And we would have right now peace throughout the world. Instead, we are on the brink of World War III. The Republicans echoed Trump's call for a swift and incisive response to Iran's actions. Mitch McConnell, the Senate minority leader, called for crippling costs for Iran, saying the pain must be felt not only on frontline terrorist proxies, but on their Iranian sponsors who wear American blood as a badge of honor. Senator John Cornyn, the Texas Republican, demanded strikes on Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and of course warmonger Lindsey Graham, the South Carolina senator, said, "The only thing the Iranian regime understands is force. Until they pay a price with their infrastructure and personnel, the attacks on U.S. troops will continue. Hit Iran now and hit them hard," he said. Seems like that's the only type of stuff he says nowadays publicly, right? Dan Crenshaw, a member of the House representing Texas who served in Afghanistan and Iraq, said it was time to repeat Trump's order to kill Soleimani. Time to kill another Iranian general, perhaps, said Crenshaw. That might send the right message. Biden is aware of the increasing cost of foreign wars, Ukraine, Gaza, on his election campaign, and concerned about escalation. He has few good options, analyst says. There's no good choices, but the death and wounds of troops and SEALs demand a strong response, said James, the retired Navy admiral who now works for the Carlyle Group, a global investment firm. He told the New York Times there needed to be significant reprisals. A multi-day air campaign against all proxies, coupled with a last chance warning to Iran, is warranted, he said. The Pentagon should be creating options that go directly against Iranian weapons production facilities, naval assets, and intelligence systems in case the mullahs want to go another round. A strong offensive cyber attack would be another viable option, either alone or in conjunction with kinetic strikes. Aaron David Miller, a former U.S. Middle East peace negotiator now at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, told Politico his options range from bad to worse, not responding to a non-conscionable, but there are risks of provoking a true regional war. He added, they know that Iran cannot afford a direct conflict with the United States, but it could fully unleash Hezbollah on Israel or American assets, and it could spiral. So it's just a shame of after 3 years of Biden giving away American taxpayer dollars and making us look weak, that he's now in this situation in an election year. Fortunately for everyone that wants him to be replaced, it's a good thing. Personally, I'm pretty much done with war. I do believe in having military strength. I also like Trump's philosophy of peace through negotiations, enriching everybody through mutual deals, things like that. You know, my main concern is that I don't want to see another batch of US dollars get sent to fight a war overseas, especially at a time when our federal government is fighting against the Texas government to keep the borders open of our own country. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my mind that we would be forking out billions to these other countries to create more war that's going to spiral into more dollars being spent when we could put a little bit of that in our own Social Security, take care of Americans' retirement, put the other part of that into our own southern border, and have a strong American base, a nice clean bedroom. Then we could worry about other people's issues and wars around the world, knowing that we're strong at home, we have a strong base, and that the American people are doing good and thriving. And then from a position of strength, then go out and help others, right? But anyways, I hope you guys agree. And if you do, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.